you ready, Deb?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call. We got Ben, Scout, Lloyd, Roy, Matt's down on the end, Jeb, and Wayne. Can you go ahead and stand for the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we need our approval for the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-0. Approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. We have 2 open forums. Are you ready to? Greg?
We can leave mine when we get down to old business, item B, that's what today's do.
Okay. April? Yeah.
Basically, we just want to know what's going on with the regional park. Last year, we were told that it would be maintained. It's been mowed once. It's kind of a rodent mosquito issue at this point. The water that sits in the low spots after it rains is not evaporating the way it probably should since the grass is so tall. Can you mow it once every other week? I mean, you said last year you were going to maintain it. What changed from last year to this year?
We have a new public works director. Go ahead,
We'd
Wayne.
like to let it grow and seed out. It's really thin. You know, there's a lot of, all the rain we've had kind of cut valleys through there. We'd like to let it dry out so we can get in there a little more.
Dry too well, be in.
Well,
It's really.
but you can't see where you're going either. All the valleys, we're going to have nothing but.
But if you let it grow, you're going to have more of an issue. You
I
know,
don't know.
it's just going to get taller, right?
Because you let developers, if they've got clean grass, we let them grow till they seed in. If there's weeds there, we make them clean them up. But
That's not clean, though. I mean, it really isn't.
it's really not a lot of weeds either. There are a few on the outside edges, but the inside is really
We
thin.
get a top view of it, you know, because we can actually see over it. And there, yeah, it's not pretty. But it's also brought us lots more gophers and mosquitoes and mice and, you know.
It's up to you guys. I mean, I just didn't leave it grow myself. Let it grow on.
You've been doing the weeds, no spraying for weeds, right?
Yeah, I think they sprayed around it. Did you spray down there at all? Just not around the fence though.
No.
The day I talked to you, we were just gonna.
No, and I know you told me, but you know what, if I don't come here and then the council doesn't know, you know, and nobody knows what's going on if I don't have full communication with everybody.
I let them know what's going on. I told them.
I'm aware that he was, and we discussed this at Park and Rec last week too. So, do you guys have any discussion on it?
I was aware it was in the meeting about that.
Roy?
Well, I don't really know what to say. I ain't been out there and I ain't walked through there to see what possibly could be done. If it could be cut and left so high.
Oh, yeah, you can always cut it, not cut it low, I mean.
Yeah, I'm not asking for
Cut it
a
halfway
3-inch
down.
cut, you know, but you
And
guys
if
have
you had-
a rule of
if
12
you had
inches
something
in
like
the
a
city.
signal board to go through it out there with.
For your property owners, you've got that rule, so why doesn't it apply to you then? We were told it was gonna be maintained. And that's just, it is beyond maintaining at this point, and I guess that's just why we're here. I can understand knee high, but when I can lose myself out in there, it's a little.
Well, who seeded that for us out there?
Meetings
Why can't the guy contact Deeds and see what can be done
for,
with the grass, or if it should be cut down so far, or what could be happening?
well, that's why I have my public works director.
It's not gonna seed back if we cut it down.
What did he tell you?
I haven't talked to anybody.
No,
Usually let stuff grow, let it reseed it, and then cut it.
I know they say you gotta let it go for over a year so you don't get washout so bad out there and everything.
Right. And it's pretty thin. If you go out there and walk through it, it's really thin all over the
Yeah,
place.
and have ruts all over different spots.
And you go in there with a
It's gonna get worse
mower,
than what it is.
if you go in there with a mower now, it's gonna be a big mess unless it really dries out.
Right. It's pretty muddy in some spots out there. Well, see what can be done, that's all I can tell you, and let them know what's happening, see where we can go from there.
Yeah, you can't correct the mud spots unless you can get to that soil. I mean, we understand what kind of mess was left there from last year and how many big mud holes you have in there, how many very deep, slimy green mud holes you have in there, you know.
Oh, yeah, okay. Any other discussion? Wait, what do you, just let it go? A little longer?
If you guys want it cut, I'll have it cut. I'd like to let it go if it gets, I mean, there's spots that are taller than others.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on it. If it dries out really good, maybe we can get in there and
Again, I just,
cut it.
I wouldn't say cut it way down, but
Yeah, we'll leave it up, yeah. And I'll let you know before we go.
do we know
So-
what's happening with the fence itself as far as it getting
Staining.
stained or something?
Or
like
the
that?
back driveway, because we'd like to put our back driveway in from the fence that we lost last year, so that also needs to be fixed on your side.
Do you guys want to get together with Wayne? And,
We can do that.
is that okay?
But then do we have to come back here to,
Nope,
As
nope.
long as you're aware.
Yeah, you guys can get together with Wayne and figure out all logistics. That's good with you?
It's good with me.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wright County, anything?
I have nothing unless you have something you need to do.
All good? Come on, Chris.
Yeah.
Council. Who wants to go first?
I just had the regular council meeting last month. And then I was at, we don't have a representative at Montrose Day Celebration, I'll do that one. Everything is basically planned. They are still looking for, or we are still looking for nonprofit organizations to help out with the bounce houses. With that, you know, we asked you to get in contact with Jennifer Anderson. She's the one who's chairing that area, but we are still looking for nonprofits to help out in that area. Thank you.
What's the new gun thing with the Boy Scouts? You have something going on?
Yes, they're doing a Top Gun over at the Waverly Gun Club. I'm not sure of all the details with that.
That's Kevin, ain't it?
That's Kevin, yes.
Personnel meetings, council meetings, union negotiations, Highway 25 meeting, planning and zoning was canceled.
Right?
I went to planning and zoning, council meeting, drove around town, in different areas and that stuff, looking at things to see what's going on. See what could be done to help Montrose out a little bit better on properties and stuff like that.
I attended union negotiations, Park and Rec, council meetings, personnel meeting, multiple visits up at City Hall. About it. How about the fire department?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Included in your packet is the activity report for June. Pretty slow month for us, thankfully, for a change. The only other thing that I have on the agenda is to accept the resignation of firefighter Darren Orr, who served with the Montrose Fire Department for 9 years and 11 months. Looking for a motion to...
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of firefighter Darren Orr.
I'll second that.
Lloyd?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Ben?
Aye.
Roy?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ooh. Matt's not here for Park and Rec. Basically, Park and Rec went over, we had discussions with April, we went over summer splashes coming up. That was a big topic. And then we're getting discussions on Santa for Christmas caroling. They're working on Barkman Park. Okay. Planning and zoning, yeah.
We didn't have a meeting last month, just because we didn't have anything to discuss. But we did get an application that was in your packet for someone that's interested in being on the Planning and Zoning Commission. If you look at his history, he does have some experience with it. I know that people in Dassel thought that he would really contribute to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So, but I'm just looking for, if you are okay with it, as a motion to accept him.
I'll make a motion to accept Mike Scanlon to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second that.
Ben?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Roy?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Wayne?
Over the last, Mayor and Council, over the last couple of months, I got some quotes from 3 different pump outfits for retrofitting the pumps at the First Street lift station. And as you can see, the quotes are all over the place. And I'd recommend going with the lowest one. It's Quality Flow. They built the station when it was new, and their pumps are a direct replacement.
They built it from the original, you said?
Yes.
Any questions for Wayne?
Now that pump, we take the old ones out, Wayne, if we send them in and get them rebuilt, not for spares.
Right.
So we
That's what we plan on doing.
Okay. And this outfit been pretty good?
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion that we order 2 pumps to get over there on North Street to end some of our problems that we've been having over there with the flow and stuff like that.
I'll second that motion.
Roy?
Right.
Lloyd?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. And Ben?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Old business discussion regarding vacant city council seat. And I'll let Matt.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, council members. Previously, you had some discussions about whether or not to fill the vacant seat at this time. This is about the most odd situation you can have with regards to the timing. There is not much left. There's not more than 2 years left on the term of the vacant seat. And we're past the timing filing for elections if somebody wanted to run. And so we're sort of in no man's land, as they might call it. The best practice would be for you to move forward and investigate and see if you can find individuals who would be interested in serving. The time will get really close to the election. And there is the option at the time of the election that an individual who wins that election could be immediately seated. They don't have to wait until January to finish out the term.
Any discussion? So we're gonna put it out there that we're looking for an open, we have an open vacant seat for city council.
If the mayor and the council is okay with it, we'll just establish a schedule.
Yep.
We'll get an application together. We thought we would take applications till August 14th.
Okay.
And then do interviews at the end of September, beginning of October.
Yep.
Does that work for everybody?
That sounds good.
Yep. All right, thank you.
We need a motion for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do so.
Yeah.
Yes, just a simple motion.
I'll make a motion to open up the, for taking applications for the council seat, and that would end in August 14th, and then the dates to be set from there for interviews and appointment.
I will second. Go ahead. Voice can have it.
I'll second it.
I'll vote aye. Ben?
Aye.
Roy?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Consideration of appointment of Greg Yeomans as an election judge. You want to come up, Greg?
Mayor, council, at the June council meeting, council took action with regard to selection of election judges. And I'm here tonight to address questions with regard to the adherence of the council to the law or state statute for 3 reasons. First, with regard to the eligibility to serve as an election judge. Election criteria for selection of election judges is established under Minnesota State Statute 204B.19, election judges as reads. Subdivision 1, individuals qualified for election judges, except as provided in Subdivision 6, which deals with high school age election judge trainees. Any individual who is eligible to vote in this state is qualified to be appointed as an election judge. I am a voter in this precinct, and I'm fully eligible to vote. Subdivision 2, individuals not qualified to be election judges. A, except as provided in paragraph B, which addresses relatives, no individual shall be appointed to an election judge from any precinct if that individual, clause 1, is unable to read, write, or speak the English language. I assure you I can read, write, and speak the English language and a couple other languages for that matter. Clause 2 is a spouse, parent, including step-parent, child, including a stepchild, or sibling, including stepchildren, or any election judge serving in the same precinct of any candidate or of any candidate in that election. I have no relatives who are serving as election judges or intend to, and I do not have any relatives who intend to be on the ballot. Clause 3 is domiciled either permanently or temporarily with a candidate on the ballot for that election. Again, I have no relatives seeking election. Or Clause 4 is a candidate in that election. And this is the clause that caused me to doubt whether the council actually reviewed the law before they made the decision to table me as an election candidate, because I'm quite sure there are some members of the council who would prefer that I not be on the ballot. At this time, I'm not on the ballot, nor do I intend to be so as a candidate. The exception is cited under subdivision 2, paragraph B, states that individuals who are related to each other, as provided in paragraph A, clause 2, may serve an elected judge in the same precinct provided that they serve on separate shifts that do not run concurrently. That provision is not applicable. As I stated, I have no relatives seeking to be election judges. This is the entirety of the elections criteria for election judges as codified under Minnesota state statutes. Based on those eligibility criteria established by law, I am and remain fully eligible. Second issue, with regard to the council's authority to qualify, examine, and appoint election judges. During the June council meeting, council sought guidance from the city attorney regarding the council's authority to appoint council as an appointing authority, which is covered under subsection 204, section 204B19, subdivision 4, additional qualifications permitted examination. As it reads, the appointing authority may establish additional qualifications which are not inconsistent with the provisions of this section and which relate to the ability of an individual to perform the duties of an election judge. The appointing authority may examine any individual who seeks appointment as an election judge or to determine whether that individual meets any qualifications established under that section. Council certainly does have the right and the authority to examine election judges. the candidates for that. However, the criteria for that examination, or if necessary disqualification, may not be inconsistent with the criteria established by law under Minnesota State Statutes 204B. Nothing brought up in the June council meeting by Bob Champlin has anything to do with my eligibility under the law to serve as an election judge. It is true that I have submitted complaints for campaign violation to the Office of Administrative Hearings against Bob Champlin and Evan Silgender for their questionable actions during the 2016 campaign. The court ultimately, and it might be noted that these were not false complaints as was alleged because they were accepted and adjudicated by the court. The court ultimately dismissed my complaints as the court believed Champlin and Silgender to be acting as private citizens rather than as a political group or under the direction of any candidate. However, submitting a complaint for campaign violations certainly does not disqualify me as an election judge. Nor does having been fined $100 by the Office of Administrative Hearings due to a complaint submitted against me 11 months after the election by Evan Silgender for not having a disclaimer or disclaimer information on a long letter to voters, which was viewed by the court as a pamphlet and therefore required the disclaimer information. Again, having received a fine does not disqualify me as an election judge under the law. Council members do not get to remove a nominee from the list of eligible candidates simply because they do not like them or they do not think they'll be a good judge. Council must make appointments and, if appropriate, disqualifications according to the law. It should be noted that this council to date has not established any guidance with regard to the review of election judges or the selection of election judges. In addition, the council's action regarding tabling election judges' appointment is unprecedented in that Montrose City Council has not tabled or disqualified any election judge nominees in the past 10 election cycles. That's over 20 years. Sometimes breaking new ground is not the best thing. Third, with reference to appointing additional election judges, Minnesota State Statute 204B21, appointment of election judges, subparagraph 2 as reads. If additional election judges are required after the listed names in that municipality have been exhausted, the appointing authority may appoint other individuals who meet the qualifications to serve as election judge. The list provided to the council was not exhausted, since the council tabled one of the names on that list and failed to make a final decision for qualification. Therefore, that list had not been exhausted prior to the appointment of an additional election judge, which is contradictory to state statute. Additionally, from the Minnesota State Statute 204B21, subparagraph 2, as reads, an individual who is appointed from a source other than the list furnished pursuant to subdivision 1 must provide the appointing authority the individual's major political party affiliation or a statement that the individual does not affiliate with any major political party. No such statement was made to the council. Again, inconsistent with state statute. Council does not get to make up the rules as they go along. With regard to decisions and actions, council is obligated to follow the law. Council did seek guidance from the city attorney, Matt Brokel, and I submit to you that he may not necessarily be the most well-versed when it comes to election law. I have reviewed these issues with attorneys. I'm not discouraging him. I have reviewed these actions with attorneys who deal specifically with election law. And the consensus is the council's actions were not consistent with state statutes for the reasons I stated earlier. Further, they have advised that should the council continue with this course of action, there may well be standing with regard to harassment or discrimination based on personal bias. Here's the deal when it comes to harassment or discrimination. That council members may be held personally liable for their actions or omissions based on discrimination or harassment. Council members may wish to consider this before prearranging or condoning discriminatory actions made by or at the council, such as the circus, circus sideshows don't necessarily bode well for council members or the city of Montrose.
Can I interrupt for 1 minute?
Yes,
Yeah, it's 3 minutes.
understand.
And I know. but.
In the May council member election, or the May meeting,
He's on the
Pat Flint
agenda.
went on for
Right.
15 and a half minutes.
I know, I
And
wasn't
also
here for that.
last meeting, Bob Chandler went on for over 5 minutes.
I stopped Bob Chandler too.
I
But,
understand.
and I understand what you're saying.
I'm almost finished.
Okay.
I hope the council considers this and considers the law before so. And I'll cite the League of Minnesota Cities with regard to the guide to elected officials. It is the duty of the mayor, clerk, and council members to ensure the city fulfills its duties under the law and lawfully executes its powers. City officials can sometimes be held personally liable for failing to act or taking unauthorized actions on the part of the city. To avoid these liability lawsuits, city officials should gain a working knowledge of the laws that regulate the city government. In other words, council members need to do their homework before they take actions regarding lawful issues. Here's my question to the council and ultimately for the citizens of Montrose. Why has it become necessary for members or individuals to sue the city in order to get the council to follow the law or to act in a manner that is consistent with sound management and sound governmental practices or recommended governmental practices?
Can you rephrase that? Did you say citizens suing the city?
No, citizens of Montrose.
Right, can you just repeat that?
It's a question for the council and the citizens of Montrose. Why has it become necessary for people to sue the city
Right.
in order to get the council to follow the law? Or to act in a manner that's consistent with sound management practices or recommended governmental practices? I've asked the council to revisit their actions in a specific request to the council regarding the selection of election judges, and I sincerely hope the council will carefully consider that and these issues, and will not only act in a manner of integrity, but will also act in a manner that's in accordance with the law. And I await your actions.
Thank you. In regards to this was brought up at last month's meeting, the election judges, and Greg, I believe the only reason that it was tabled at that time was to check into the allegations that were given to us as a council. We did receive, and we tabled it, we didn't eliminate, it was just tabled. And that's why it is back here this month, to bring that action back to us. We did get confirmation, and as you stated, it was just a $100 fine for a disclaimer, which is, I mean, we all know that the disclaimer has to be on there. You know, you didn't have it on there, so.
Trust me, I wasn't the only one.
Well, in your opinion, I guess that is correct, but, so we have it back in front of us today to decide. And to talk about, I mean, I think you may have been referring to the fact that we brought up Brew at the last meeting.
Correct.
Right, and my question is because Brew was an election judge last year,
But
and
the law states that the list must be exhausted prior to appointing an additional election judge. The list was not exhausted, it was tabled.
right,
Remember,
I
we
only
tabled-
asked, my question was Brew notified to be an election judge? That was the question.
She was notified here at the council when she was supplanted on my name on the list.
I asked Wendy, correct.
Yes.
So getting back to where we need to be, Greg is on the ballot for an election judge. There actually is no reason we tabled it. We found out the information that we needed to do. So I will then make a motion to add Greg Yeomans back on as an election judge for the 2018 campaign season.
I will second that motion.
Roy?
I'm abstaining.
Lloyd?
No.
I'll vote aye. Ben?
Aye.
Motion passes 2-1 and an abstention.
Mayor,
We have to ask for a reason, don't we?
that would be the question to
Yes.
ask whether or not.
Is there a reason for the abstention? Because typically, it's if there's any, like, a personal involvement is why we typically abstain from.
No, I don't want to get into none of this or anything. On anything that I seen or what I saw or anything, I'm just abstaining from the thing and that's it, period.
Mayor, then that counts as a no.
That's a no vote, and then it's a 2-2. Then we take,
When it doesn't pass, you have to make another motion, or a different motion, or table it to the next meeting.
Table. I make a motion to table it to the next meeting.
That's not possible.
I would not do that.
We
because we
can't.
have state statutes, you can't do that.
Because he will make it in time for the training.
Yeah, there's-
First election is,
There's training that's involved, and there's no reason.
There's
no reason.
There's no legal,
No, he
We
can't
legally-
replace
He
him.
cannot legally be replaced because
No.
if we replace him, we are violating Minnesota state statutes, what he just read to us.
Yep, there's
So
no
we
reason to
can't
abstain.
Take him off there. There is no legal reason to take him off there. There's nothing that we can do to legally take him off here. He has not violated anything. He meets all the criteria. So there's, yes, I mean, it's black and white. Everything that Greg just gave us
It's all right there.
is right there. There is nothing that we can legally do to remove him from this. He's not violated anything. He's not in violation of anything. It is.
The only thing that Greg has done is ran for a campaign in 2016 and didn't put his name on a sign. And I'm sure at one point in time,
We all
it's
have.
happened.
I mean,
And then
we all
they
have.
send out an
Yep.
email that says, don't forget, and then we all run around town and put him on there.
Yep.
So, and
But
he was,
But he didn't have to do that, why?
he did, he was fined. He was
That's
given
what-
a fine by the state. So there's no reason to not have him as an election judge. So I will make a new motion then to appoint, I don't even have the whole list, all the election judges that we had,
Would you like a list?
yeah.
they
Thank
were,
you. I got it.
they were approved already at the last minute.
Right, okay. So, well, that'll be my new motion. We'll continue. My new motion is then to confirm that Wendy Manson is our head election judge, assisted by Deb Belter, Jessica Bonniwell, Gloria, I'm not sure how to spell her last name, Bonnie Reese, Jolene Lumen, Joanne Bauerschmidt, Doug Boring, and Greg Yeomans.
I will second that motion.
Okay, I will vote aye. Lloyd?
No.
Roy?
I'm gonna abstain on that too.
Wow.
Ben?
Aye.
Oh my God.
That's amazing.
Kidding me.
Can I ask a question?
You have to come up to the
You
mic.
have to come up,
Come to the
state your
microphone.
name and your address, please.
My name is Joe Flug, I live at 309 Hogan Drive. My question is, why are you guys even voting on it if it's illegal for you to vote on it? If it's illegal for you to change it, why are you even voting on it? Just leave it as is. He's on the list, right?
Right.
He's on the list already,
That's
then there's nothing to vote on.
We have to approve it and vote on it.
Because
Yes.
because the list was tabled
Last month.
last month.
One name on the list was tabled.
One
Yes.
day.
My name.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
and additionally, an additional election judge of your choosing was placed as an additional election judge without having exhausted the list. Therefore, the appointment of the additional judge is not valid either.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, then if that's not valid and you can't do it, then then his name can't legally have been tabled.
Correct.
So,
We-
drop it, he's on the list.
We still have to vote for it
We
though.
still have to approve it.
Why?
Election judges have to be approved.
They have to be approved by the state of Minnesota.
The Secretary of State's office requires the election judges.
He's already been approved, right? At one point he was approved?
No.
And you can't change it? You've never been approved?
No, it was submitted as a list to the convening authority, and the convening authority, which is the council in this municipality, needs to make a decision to appoint those election judges. And if they choose not to appoint those election judges, then they have to show, or they should show, why they're not selected and why they're disqualified. And I've specifically asked that if council disqualifies me, that I would like to have the specific reasons for doing so.
Matt, what do you say?
So here, council members, the question that was put to me and the reason for tabling the matter was the effect of what we did not understand at the time to be the Office of Administrative Hearings and the proceedings that Greg was involved in at the time. That's what you asked me to do. We looked it up.
We're good.
Discovered that it was a $100 fine. It is not considered to be a crime that might otherwise be a reason for disqualifying someone from the circuit. So what he said is exactly right. He meets the qualifications as set forth in the statute. That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, then what has to happen here is Lloyd and Roy have to have a reason for their vote.
Correct.
Correct.
So everybody else just needs to look at them and say, you guys need to
What's
have
up?
a reason for your vote.
You
Or you
guys
can't
have
vote the way you're
something-
voting.
For no vote.
You have to have a reason why you're going against state statute.
Okay, I'm going against because of the people that I know that's going to be running for office. He won't cooperate with them.
Wendy is in charge wholeheartedly, and she's been in charge for 20 years or something. And if anything goes wrong, it goes really down on Wendy. And I do not believe that she's going to let anything, I mean, there's 9 people there. Nothing's going to happen. I mean, if it does, then the state comes out. I mean, you have to sit here and you can't think of just certain individuals that are, you have to think of what's best here for the city. Because you cannot sit here and break the law. There's no reason whatsoever why Greg cannot be an election judge.
Can you show me a law that he has broken that allows us to remove him from the list? Okay. Roy, can you? Can you speak in your
You
microphone,
have,
please?
no.
Well,
Okay. So I will then make a motion to put Greg Yeomans back on as the election judge for the 2018 campaign season.
I will second that motion again.
I will vote aye. Lloyd. Roy. And
Aye.
thank you. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Mayor.
See you in November.
Exactly. And just a point of
Sorry about that.
For the concerns there, the guide for election judges specifically precludes discrimination on the part of election judges. So no, that's not an issue, Lloyd.
Okay, new business. Wright County Health and Human Services.
Okay, I want to introduce everybody to Anna. I'm not sure how to say your last name. Bohannon. She's going to do a presentation for you on transportation, but you have to give me a second to get up on the screen, okay?
Could you give your last name? Your last name.
Oh, there it is. And if you just want to, does it work for you to go up to the podium so you're on the next one? Okay. Montrose on the move.
Right, so good evening, council. My name is Anna. My name is Anna Bohannon. Is it on now?
Yes.
Good, okay. Good evening, council. My name is Anna Bohannon. I am from Wright County Health and Human Services, the Public Health Department. I'm a health promotion coordinator there. I work with the Minnesota Statewide Health Improvement Partnership, also known as SHIP. I work with communities, stakeholders, and residents in and around Wright County to increase access to physical activity opportunities in the places that we live, work, and play. So just a quick overview of what I'm going to be talking about this evening. What is SHIP? SHIP work that's gone on so far in Montrose, active living in Montrose, and then next steps and opportunities. Go one back. Okay. So SHIP is a state-funded program that is working to create good health throughout Minnesota by decreasing obesity, obesity rates, and reducing the number of people who use commercial tobacco or are exposed to secondhand smoke. We work with communities, workplaces, healthcare organizations, and schools, supporting sustainable policy, systems, and environmental changes. So far in Montrose, we've worked with Montrose Elementary School. They received some skateboards as kind of something different to try for physical education classes, as well as some heart rate monitors. And then with the carpentry CCC.
Carpentry contractors.
Yes, we did some worksite wellness work with them. And then little kids care. We did some gardening, so working with kids from very young ages, getting their hands in the dirt, and they learn from seed to harvest on how things grow. And then HEDA, that stands for the Health Equity Data Analysis. That was an added requirement from the legislators this past the past time that they had approved the funding for that. And we held a committee meal at the 12 high estates and had conversations with people about how health and income are related. And then we also held another event at Grace Place in town here as well. Just once again, kind of reporting out of what we learned from that committee meal, and then kind of any further questions people had. Active living in Montrose. So many communities across Minnesota and the country have taken steps to create safe, enjoyable places for people to walk and bike. Additionally, some have taken a thoughtful, planned approach to acquire national recognition as one of the best. So these are two different ways that a community can be recognized. The one in the upper right-hand corner, there's a walk-friendly community, and then the lower right-hand corner, that is for a bike-friendly community. Currently in Minnesota, there are 23 communities that are recognized as bike-friendly. The League of American Bicyclists has a program and hands-on assistance for cities, states, and businesses and universities to achieve recognition for making bicycling a real transportation and recreation option for everyone. Recognition can be awarded at different levels. Bronze, which you can see is that sign there, silver, gold, and platinum. And this is based upon criteria met by the applicant around the 5 E's: engineering, education, encouragement, enforcement, and evaluation. Communities can receive designation as a high-quality community for walking by the Walk Friendly Communities organization. Presently, there are 5 such communities in Minnesota, all of which have been obtained by bicycle-friendly communities. And then safe routes to schools, parks, shopping, and more. So just a quick show of hands. How many people, council, mayor, and people learn to walk to school as a kid? Anyone? Yeah. A few. So in the past 40 years, from 1969 to 2009, students walking and biking to school has declined from 48% to just 13%. Fitness levels have declined and childhood obesity has increased tremendously. Safe Routes to School aims to increase the number of students who regularly walk or bike to school where safety concerns are not a barrier. Not only these programs help students be healthy and fit, but studies also show a link between physical activity and academic achievement. Safe Routes to School programs have started in communities across Minnesota and the rest of the country. Some programs begin with a single event, such as National Walk and Bike to School Days. It starts with a child's trip to school, but when communities create safe spaces for everyone to walk and bike, they take a big step towards ending serious injuries and deaths on roads. And these events can start a community-wide effort that leads to changes supporting safe walking and biking to all community destinations every day. And this enhances an entire community's quality of life. And somebody think about what this is like points of interest of a school, church, convenience stores, those type of things. Can people safely bike and walk there? Complete Streets approach integrates people and places into planning, design, construction, operation, and maintenance of a transportation network. This approach helps ensure that streets are safe for people of all ages and abilities while balancing the needs of different modes of travel, walking, biking, transit, and auto. It also supports local land uses, economics, cultures, and natural environments. Over 1,200 complete streets policies have been adopted at a local, regional, and state level in the United States since 2004, and this includes more than 40 in Minnesota. Depending on who will be using it, a complete street could contain sidewalks, wide paved shoulders, bike lanes, transit stops, and safe street crossings, median islands, pedestrian activated signals, curb extensions, narrow travel lanes, roundabouts, and more. Streets are more than just road where automobiles are traveling. Every complete street is unique to its community context and how different types of people will access and utilize the space. For example, a complete street in a rural area can look quite different from a suburban or urban area, but each are designed to balance safety and convenience for everyone using it. A community which provides options for residents and visitors to enjoy safe opportunities to walk, bike, and otherwise be physically active doesn't happen by accident, it's planned. Planning can directly improve health. By addressing the conditions that determine the active living options available to people, planning can be used to achieve significant positive health outcomes and to address chronic disease factors such as inactivity. Conversely, a lack of conscientious planning can result in development patterns that discourage people from being active as part of their daily routines. For example, locating neighborhoods far from schools, shopping, employment, or parks minimizes the ability for people to safely and reasonably walk or bike. Bottom line, standard planning practices, strategies, and policies can make it easy for people to make healthy choices, resulting in healthy people, healthy environments, and a healthy economy. Thinking ahead, local government regularly plan the future development and redevelopment of their community. Comprehensive plans serve as the foundation upon which a community will or will not provide routine opportunities for physical activity. They include several sections where physical activity opportunities can be addressed, including parks and open spaces, land use, and transportation. Cities and counties may produce other plans such as parks and trail, recreation, pedestrian and bicycle plans that can also support walking, biking, and other physical activity opportunities. Once an area is built or developed, it can be a very long time before it's changed. And I do know that you guys very recently updated your comprehensive plan. I think it was March of 2017, if that's correct. So some people get the word equity and equality kind of messed up. So equality is everyone's given the same opportunity, and equity, people are given an opportunity, or basically it fits their needs. As you can see, not everyone is riding the same bicycle on the equity line there, but everyone is bicycling. So many residents face conditions which make healthy choices like daily walking, biking, or other physical activity difficult. Limiting their choices can lead to chronic diseases and enormous healthcare costs. Thoughtful and intentional planning is needed to eliminate everyone's barriers to active living. When all children and adults have opportunities to be physically active, a community and its people are able to be healthier and thrive. But people with geographic, social, or economic disadvantages may be affected by past or current systems, policies, and practices that have often unintentionally hindered their options for physical activity. For example, neighborhoods that receive low infrastructure investments in the form of parks and recreation facilities, green space, or trails and sidewalks face persistent structural problems that limit opportunities for residents to live a physically active life. When these barriers are not addressed, they become a drag on the vitality and prosperity of the entire community. Eliminating these barriers often benefits everyone. For example, installation of curb cuts improves mobility for those using a wheelchair or walker, but also helps parents when pushing strollers. Filling gaps in the sidewalk network, connecting and maintaining trails to community destinations, improving unsafe street crossings, and reducing high-speed motorized traffic all create paths forward for everyone. An equitable transportation system includes walking and biking options. It is accessible, convenient, safe, and efficient for people of all ages, abilities, incomes, and neighborhoods, providing an economically and environmentally efficient options for everyone for every trip year-round. Parkland and open spaces in our natural world are critical to our health. Trails are the most requested and popular recreation feature in communities, but trails are often used just as much for transportation as people commute to work, schools, shopping, clinics, churches, libraries, and parks. Well-planned walking and biking trails provide a transportation and recreation option for people of all ages, incomes, and abilities, plus an easy and effective way for people to build physical activity into their daily routine. 8 to 80 cities believes in the simple idea that if everything a city does is great for an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old, it will be great for all people. A key focus is on the design and use of parks and streets as great public spaces, as well as on the idea of sustainable mobility, including walking, biking, transit, and automobiles. The experience of 8-year-old and 80-year-old serve as indicators of what is working in the city and what needs to be improved. The concept applies to small towns, suburbs, and large urban cities around the globe. 8 to 80 cities believes that through broad alliances of public and private sectors working together, communities can be built in a way that nurtures the need of all people to be physically active, a place where children can grow up and seniors can grow old in a healthy manner, no matter their ages, income, or ability. Walking is the one activity that nearly all of us do each day. We walk to our vehicles, we walk into the store. We may walk to simply get where we need to go or for employment. Some people walk because it is their only option for transportation or for exercise. Regardless of the reason, all types of walking can enhance our health. Some choose biking as a preferred method of transportation or recreation, while for others it may be their only alternative to walking. Great trails, sidewalks, lighting, benches, and signs all support walking and biking. Not only do walkable and bikeable communities support health, they're good for both local economy and environment. Retail areas with foot traffic from walkers and bicyclists often results in these people stopping to eat or shop. Creating safe and enjoyable routes to the front door retail setting can also draw people to areas of the community where they may not go otherwise. So some suggestions for next steps and some tangible opportunities for this community would be to host a bikeable or walkable community workshop. There are experts from the state that come and either kind of do a bike around the community or a walk around the community, and then come back and kind of assess how did that feel, what worked well, what didn't work well, and then create an action plan on some 3 or 5 year goals that you can work on in the community to make it better to bike or walk or both. A complete streets policy, that's something that a community can put into place, and then for future projects, whether it be development or resurfacing or doing a complete reclamation project, considering sidewalks or biking or whatever is appropriate for that specific project. Safe routes to school, that is a program through the Minnesota Department of Transportation. Howard Lake Waverly Winston School District actually got awarded this past school year for that, and Monticello got awarded for this upcoming school year for that award as well. So something to consider for the future with the elementary school right in town. And then lastly, Stop For Me campaign. That can be used as a pedestrian safety awareness. I actually just did one with the city of Buffalo, working with their police department. So we basically just had volunteers that tried to cross the road, and then we focused primarily on the southbound lane, but then we had a squad car go and pull people over and just educate them on what had happened and on the laws that are in place. for both pedestrians and drivers. So just some ideas and some more easier options potentially for this community to consider. And if you have any questions, you can certainly ask them now, or you have my contact information, either call me or email me as well.
The city of Montrose did get the grant. I don't remember how many years ago it was, the Safe Walks to Schools grant.
Safe Routes to School?
Yeah, that was from the 12-mile trailer park here in town. That's the walking path that we have. God, that's gotta be years ago.
Well, in the Safe Routes to School, there's infrastructure and then there's the planning part of it. So most likely, you can't get infrastructure grant, you can't get Safe Routes to School infrastructure unless you have a Safe Routes to School plan in place. So, but that is something that can be used for those, if you do have a plan, or once you do get a plan, it can kind of help with those infrastructure grants down the road for trails and sidewalk connections or crosswalks. Signage.
So much notice would you need?
For applying for that, I think sometime in the beginning of the year, I think it's due January 1st, and I think solicitation for it starts in August or September, I want to say. It varies, I think it depends on how busy people are at the state before they roll it out, but if there is interest, I can definitely keep it in mind, and then once I do get a notification of that, I can start on that.
I believe the city was granted the planning award for the State Highway 25 project that's going to be going on next year. But I do not believe we ever applied for or got the infrastructure. If I remember sitting through some of those management
apply for
plans.
that.
Well, the infrastructure, for the Safe Routes to School infrastructure, I think there's a 20 or 25% match requirement with that. So something to consider of, down the road with those applications can be quite an expense depending on how big the project is.
Doug, do you have a question?
No, I think he was right. I thought we had gotten 250,000 for this, or was it for that one? To Rockbrook.
To Rock. We don't have a,
There was no grant for that?
No.
See, 250,000 is my mind. Maybe that was the one to...
We got a grant for 250,000, but when both of these went to survey that, and our friends MnDOT said, no, you can't build it there because we're going to redo the road.
Okay.
So we spent that money to go over past Casey's now in the bank.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So that was part of that grant. Yeah.
the term names.
And I know we did get that money for the 12 high out there.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
That's originally when it started from.
Right. That was a long time ago.
That was
That's quite a
long
while.
time ago, yeah.
I think Charlie was mayor when that started.
It was a long time ago.
Okay, you guys have anything else?
Thank you very much.
I just wonder if we could apply for a grant for 25.
Along 25
Yeah.
for a trail for south of 12.
Yes.
Or-
Oh, Highway 25.
25. So,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yeah, and that's definitely something to consider too, is thinking about where are there trails outside of Montrose and connecting to those. So I think it's a loose line that would be the next trail down. So something to consider trying to get connected there, because then people can come from there to Montrose to Buffalo on the trail system. So
We did actually
Check into that.
meet with Wright County Parks and Trails. Oh God, March, April, somewhere in there, and talked about the trail coming down Buffalo Avenue that connects, would go over to Aspen and back and connecting into Waverly along that whole trail. So we've had that discussion too.
yeah, and it's difficult, especially when you get to the outskirts of town too, because then you go to the township, and then does the county have the funds and the ability to do that too? But if you can orchestrate it all, you can make really cool projects happen, really good connections. So, thank you again for the opportunity to come speak about this, and if you have any other questions, definitely let me know.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Before you move on to the point of order,
What's that?
point of order. Just to keep the council on the right side of the law with regard to Luke's appointment at retain her as an election judge, they will need to revote in reference to that after having, exhausted the list. So it would require a vote tonight.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Discussion regarding the harboring of chickens in the city. This has been brought up by different residents have come to us about having chickens. What?
Mayor Otto received a request.
I've seen quite a few requests over the years, so we're just kind of, right now we don't allow it, so we're kind of looking into the possibility, and we'll let Matt take over.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I was asked by staff to put together a little bit of information having to do with harboring of chickens and regulations. And many cities, the most frequent approach is to just prohibit it outright. There are lots of different kinds of regulations, arrangements or schemes that you can put in place, and I did provide that with a fairly exhaustive version of one of the cities that has tackled the problem where it's become an issue or a problem. And really this is a matter for you to discuss if it's something you want to investigate further. Certainly working with the city clerk treasurer, we have some good examples if you want to take a look at those.
Okay, all right. Greg, do you have a question?
No, at one point there was an ordinance, it's been 10, 12 years ago. My neighbor actually petitioned the city to have an ordinance to keep up to 6 hens but no roosters. And that was an ordinance that was put on the city. I don't know if it's still in place, but it was at that time.
Yeah, currently in the ordinance is nothing in there, so go ahead, Deb.
Okay, so Matt was, the city attorney, excuse me. The city attorney was nice enough to provide me with a copy of an ordinance from the city of Elko New Market. And I did call there to talk to their city clerk, and I asked her about the ordinance and how it was going. And she gave me quite a bit of information. First, she said it was a very, as Matt said, exhaustive process to go back and forth between planning and zoning and the city council to establish the ordinance. She said it took a long time. And they decided to do it because they had one resident that wanted to have chickens. So I asked her how it was going, and she said that was 2 years ago that they did that, and not one person, even that resident, has applied to have a permit to have chickens. So she said they went through all of that process, but she said that the thing about it is that in order to protect all your residents, you have to make it very restrictive, and you have to make very restrictive guidelines, and people can't afford it. They can't afford to do it because you have to have a certain coop, and you have to have fencing, you have to, so that's why people don't do it. But then I also did talk to our city planner, Mark, and he said that he has addressed this in several communities, and he said the one thing that he wanted me to bring to your attention that you have to remember that's been brought to his attention is that it brings in other issues. Coyotes, weasels, mink, rats. So it does bring in those problems as well. So I just wanted to share that with you. This is entirely up to you if you want us to proceed with this, so we'll go ahead and discuss it and then just give you direction on what you'd like to do.
Did they give you like a cost at all, what it may cost the resident to do this?
She did not.
No.
And no
But,
different.
go ahead. So, in reference to Greg there, I think we had this problem before I ever got on the council. And I thought at that time they made up an ordinance to prohibit chickens.
I know there was one where it was approved, because my neighbor got approval from council to have chickens. And if I recall, it was an ordinance that was placed in the city ordinances to have up to 6 chickens, but no roosters. And there were some guidelines on how the cooping needed to go and that kind of thing. It was pretty restrictive, but they did have chickens for some time. It was Pastor Frank, yes.
There also was an incident over on Garfield, not Garfield, but Fairmont over there, I think.
Not
Somebody had chickens there one time, but when Barb was here, and I thought we came up with an ordinance not to have chickens or prohibit them.
They may have been rescinded, I don't know for sure.
And then, of course, with all this other information here, I don't see any reason to change it.
It's just been brought up.
Yeah, I know.
So, Without knowing what the actual cost would be to the resident, but it sounds like it could be a substantial amount.
You gotta have a place to store your feed, and do this and do that, because when they put that truck wash in there on Highway 12 where Volkswagen dealer is now back, 35 years ago, when the guy started that truck wash, he was gonna start a, what do you call that? Make a diesel fuel, that corn thing. Rats running all over the place. Everybody had them in their houses, in their garage, in the basement, all over until that closed up over there, because he never kept none of his corn or nothing in any place to keep anything. And there were rats running across Highway 12, running around all over every place that corn set. You ain't got to hold it back, you might as well forget it, because you can have nothing but trouble.
Okay.
Can be spending.
So what's the council's consensus here? Leave the ordinance the way it is, or have staff continue to look into changing the ordinance?
I just leave it the way it is right now until something else comes up.
Okay.
I'm okay
You
with
okay
that.
with that? Okay. We'll just leave the ordinance the way it is then. All right, thank you for thinking into it. Approval of the 49ers union contract. You all received copies of that, correct? And had a chance to go over it?
Yeah, we did receive copies.
Email?
Yeah.
I don't have the date. I don't have the date. Do you guys got your emails, everybody? Missed it?
I don't know, seeing it.
I didn't send one out.
No, I didn't.
Because I never had the contract, so.
I sent them out to all of you. Want to take a look at it?
There isn't much changes from the last.
There's no changes.
49ers, are you good with the contract?
Yep,
Does everybody in your group have a copy of the contract?
once you guys say, okay, we're gonna.
From the last meeting though, do they have a copy of the potential new contract?
They should.
James, you have one?
Yeah, we did it at the last meeting.
Yeah, very good with everybody.
What about Ryan?
He's technically not part of the 49 meeting.
That one there, he wasn't part of it yet.
Correct, but the question is, does he have a copy of the potential of any contract?
He probably shares rivers.
So he doesn't have his own?
I don't know. He will get his own once you guys say, okay.
Right, but the only question is does he even know what he's potentially in for? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think too, because he wasn't here at the last meeting, he didn't get to vote with us on it.
Yeah, he didn't
Correct.
vote on it,
So,
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah, Danny has told him about stuff, and we've talked to him about it.
Okay. It's all the same. The only thing that we, originally, the discussion was, they were originally gonna go ahead and change their comp time. There was a couple different options from 40 hours to 60 hours to 80 hours. We kept it at 40 hours. We had looked at, potentially having the 49ers pay a portion of their insurance. We looked at multiple options on that, and it was a lot of discussion actually, but we chose to keep it 100%.
yep.
Speed reader. Other than that, I mean, they still have, nothing has really changed. So, is there then a motion to approve the 49er union contract?
I'll make a motion to approve the 49er contract.
I'll second.
All right, Ben.
Aye.
I'll vote aye, Lloyd.
Aye.
And Roy.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 to approve the 49er contract. We will then get, is Ray gonna make your little booklets again for everybody? Okay, perfect, thank you. And then we'll get a copy out to all staff too.
Make sure he puts the right dates in there this time.
Yeah, good for 2.5 years. Can you actually have him make
Extra?
4 extras for council? I have. Thank you. And then we're going to review the mayoral positions of 2018 as we've had a few changes with council. So we're going to start at the top.
Mayor, before we start with that, Matt, do you just want to make some of the comments that you had shared with me
Oh,
today about this?
Sheriff, Mayor, and council members, when you take a look at the list, you'll see that there are a number of positions that are specifically named to individuals who hold those positions. And certainly as you do this, rather than having to go through every year and make changes based on changes in personnel, certain appointments, you can just put their position, for example, let me look at one here. Staff coordinator under Highway 12 development. Right now it says Dale Powers.
Just put city clerk.
City clerk treasurer.
Okay.
Put in, or, assistant city clerk, or whatever, whatever it is that the person does for the city, put that in, and then if there are changes, you don't have to go back and do this every time.
Right. Okay.
And then you said the same for like city engineer and planner too, correct? Just take the names out.
Just take their names out and put their position in there. Right. So basically, all we're changing is who the liaisons are for each thing that we have. So, acting mayor, we have as Lloyd Johnson. The Chamber of Commerce, can we just put city clerk?
As the alternate.
Is the alternate or the?
Just, they could be the person in general, because currently it's me and Jill, and I'm not able to attend. So,
And I have
Deb has been attending.
Okay.
So, community ed rep, well, I will continue to do that.
Can we back up for a second?
Yeah.
Are we going to take the alternate out for the chamber representative? Just take it out?
Does anybody want to be an alternate? I know most of us, nobody wanted to last time. So, I mean, if you want to, Ben?
I don't even have the time to go for Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, which we pay for, so.
Okay. So if we'll just have it as a city clerk, and then if you can't make it, just let one of us, let a council member know.
Okay, sounds good.
Community ed, I will continue with that. EDA is council. Emergency management we'll put fire chief instead of Kevin, right? Okay. Assistant fire chief emergency medic would be captain.
No, assistant
Assistant
fire chief and the fire department captains.
Okay. And liaison can continue to be Ben. Do we need an alternate?
We would not need an alternate in that situation, in my opinion. If we get to a degree where emergency management is being activated, the whole council's gonna be involved anyways, so. And that's really the only time. The way our meetings are now, it's not structured like it used to be. We're part of the city. You guys are getting our updates. So having an alternate, if something comes up and Ben can't be there, I'll seek somebody else out if I need somebody there, so.
Okay. Highway 12 Development Committee is Brandon Allen Stones, John Barter, Sylvia Henry, and we did have Hal Gallus on there, but it looks like he was removed. Currently, are we trying to reach out to them?
To the Highway 12?
Yeah.
I can, yes.
Okay. Staff coordinator then will be the city clerk. And then it would just be, as we stated, city engineers, planners, and public works director.
Did you want to leave the one vacancy on here? Or do you
We
want
can.
me to take that off?
You can
You can leave it in there, there's a spot,
Then
yeah.
we know we got an opening in there.
Okay, sounds good.
Management coordinating committee is actually the personnel committee, so you can have it as, it's currently me and Lloyd. So
Matt, for that one too, do you want to take names out and just say mayor
And
and
council
council member?
Usually the council member would be designated which one.
on that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's, again, the suggestion is not just to take everybody's name off of it. It was just for the, let's say, the routine,
The basics.
the basics, yes.
Okay.
So we could say,
We did change that though, that it should be the mayor and acting mayor. I mean, that would eliminate things.
It would.
That's fine too.
okay,
Do you guys
so
agree with that?
Sure.
we're going to take the names out then and say mayor, acting
And
mayor?
acting mayor, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And is it still the same list of people because Kevin's on here? Is he still on the personnel committee?
Well, back in February, that was not, but if you would like to be back, that's fine.
Well, if we have personnel issues, then, might come, but
Okay.
Okay,
otherwise.
so if something comes up, give me a call?
Yeah, pretty much. If it's fire department related, I'll be there.
Okay.
Okay,
So then,
all right,
instead of Sean, we'll just have Public Works Director,
yep,
City Clerk instead of Dale Powers,
yep.
Fire Chief.
And just, you can have fire chief, yep. Park and Rec. We have new members. Are we listing all, we're taking out Brew, Matt Russell is the new chair, Abby Myers is gone, Kurt Anderson is gone, and Christina is gone, and they have been replaced with Sylvia Henry, Barry Reinberger, and then Matt Russell. And I am the liaison for that, and the alternate currently is Lloyd. Staff coordinator is Jess, so if you want to put utility clerk as utility admin,
Okay. Utility billing clerk.
that's it, yep.
Okay.
Planning and Zoning Commission is also changed. Chuck Smallwood is no longer there. It's been replaced with Sylvia Henry. Tracy Granola is still there. Kurt Anderson is gone. Drew Plug is gone. Barry Reinberger is still there. And now we have Mike that we appointed tonight. Is that all of them? 4? Right? It's Sylvia, Barry, Mike, Tracy. Okay. Council liaison is Lloyd, who wants to be an alternate. We had Melissa.
Do we need one?
Well, if you can't make it, you want to call Roy?
I could.
Okay. City planner is Mark. Staff coordinator would then go back to clerk treasurer. Here's where we need somebody. Finance committee is Ben. It was Melissa. Lloyd or Roy. Anybody want to volunteer?
Well, I've done it before. I can do it. I've worked with Kevin on that.
All right, and obviously Wendy and clerk treasurer. Utility emergency board, we don't really. That's usually the mayor and public works director. Montrose Days committee was Jill and Melissa, but since we have Ben as a board member, we're good with that? Okay. WCAT is Wendy. That's all good.
So Councilmember Johnson, are you still on the WCAT thing, or is it just Wendy?
Well, Wendy's been going. I
Yes,
can
just
be an
Wendy.
alternate.
So just take her, put her in there, okay?
Yeah. Other than that, I think we have everything.
I think that's it. So I'll have to prepare another resolution. I'll probably have you help me with that, and I'll have you review it to make sure that we're doing it the way that you would like to see it done. Okay.
Upcoming meetings. City Council workshop is next Monday, 16th, City Hall, 3 o'clock. Planning and zoning meeting, we are going to continue to have that July 18th, 7 o'clock, Community Center. Park and Rec is August 6th of 2018. In between this sometime, August 14th, I believe, is the 90-day time for a decision to be made if we are going to continue on with hiring of Deb, or what the council's plan is. So is there a time that the council can get together to go over this whole discussion?
Is it something we can do right now? Make motion for, or?
It'd be kind of early.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to have a discussion on it at another time? What do you want to do?
What do you want to discuss?
If we are going to, right now Deb is our interim, and her 90 days comes up August 14th.
Yeah.
So we have to decide between now and August 13th if we're going to continue on with Deb as a full-time employee, or
If you want to start
if we
the
want
hiring
to
process.
start a hiring process, what we want to do.
What do you want to do?
So-
You want to stay on that?
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
All right, simple enough. I'll make a motion to hire you on full-time.
I'll second that.
Is there discussion?
That way we don't have to go through all the process, of putting everything in the paper and everything.
Exactly.
We agree.
Yep.
Do you have a concern, Lloyd?
No, that's okay with me, I just asked.
Okay, so then moving forward, I did have the discussion with Deb. She would continue then to be an hourly employee instead of a salary employee.
Okay.
Because she is off on Thursdays to take care of family stuff.
Obligations.
So, but she does attend our monthly chamber meeting. And I think it would be a great asset to have you join our team.
And just so you know, I want you to be aware of that, even though I have Thursdays off, my husband is retired and he is able to stay home. He works at a mansion now. And yes, he works hard. He is able to stay home, so like last Thursday, Wendy needed me to come in over her lunch hour, and so he came home and I was able to do that, and I am able to go to the chamber meeting, so I don't ever want you to think that's a hindrance that I have that Thursday off, because I can come in if I have to.
And Deb has also been staying late on Fridays to get our ordinances caught up. But question, since this was not on the agenda, can we go ahead and do that?
You can.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we had a motion from Ben, a second from Roy. I will vote aye. Ben?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
And Roy? Motion passes 4-0. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, everybody, I'm very excited, and I appreciate the opportunity, thank you.
Any acknowledgements?
I'd like to acknowledge firefighter Darren Orr for his 9 years, 11 months of service on the department.
I would like to acknowledge Paula Thompson for continuing to do the weeding and gardening of our Highway 12 development stuff. I was at Dollar General the other day and had to be 90 degrees outside, but she was still out there cleaning up the weeds, and so I want to acknowledge her for doing that. If there's any time, we have multiples along Highway 12. If council would like to take a few hours and pull some weeds.
I also would like to acknowledge Pat Plug for mowing the boulevard over there in Rockbrook and so forth, which he doesn't have to do, but he does it to make it look nice.
Anybody else? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Madam Mayor,
Yeah, sorry.
just by a point of order, if I may. You might want to reconsider, or not reconsider, reaffirm the appointment, and I believe it was Brew Plug.
Oh, yes, yes, brought that up. Yeah, last month,
Can we leave her on?
that's what we're gonna decide right now. It was discussed last month to add Brew on, and she had a discussion with her and Wendy that if she is needed, she would be an alternate backup. So we would have to make that motion to approve that.
And just for reference for you, it is nice to have the backups, because if somebody would get sick that day, you want to have someone that's trained that can come in and fill in.
So I'll make a motion then to add Brew as an election judge.
I'll second.
Lloyd? Ben?
Aye.
Roy? And I'll vote aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you for remembering. Now is there a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, I told her that you took me I gave it to
Actually, no, he's fine. I didn't. Yeah, he's fine, but I haven't.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
So I never saw him though. So that's
So,
weird.
it would show.
Exactly.
Here, out of my.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes, we made those discussions and, when we approved the raises people. Oh, you are correct. There was a change because we went from 3%.
Okay. And then, not by me.
I mean, everybody did look at all
you know, you said there was no change.